When it comes to suspenseful movies that keep you on the edge of your seat, there's a lot to choose from. We're talking everything from horror to psychological, true crime, and black comedy. With all these options out there, it's gonna be difficult for you to choose which one to watch. We're making that job easier for you. Here are the 10 best suspense movies of all time. Let's get into it. At number 10 we have Parasite, 2019. Bong Joon-ho had already made a name for himself with masterpieces like Memories of Murder, The Host, and Snowpiercer. With Parasite, he exploded into the mainstream like never before, telling a timeless tale of the poor mingling with the rich and deadly consequences that come with it. While it does feature black comedy, Parasite also gets super serious, especially as the poor Kim family involves itself in the lives of the rich Parks. And as secrets emerge, the tensions rise to an unbearable degree. No wonder this was the first non-English film to win the Academy Award for Best Picture. Next up is Get Out, 2017. At first, the idea of Jordan Peele directing a horror thriller film about racism could have taken you by surprise. But with Get Out, he proved just how effective that concept can be when given the right amount of care and execution. Daniel Kaluuya plays Chris, an African-American man dating a Caucasian woman who seems harmless at first. She invites him to meet her parents. After a bit, he starts to suspect something is off. Really off. Things spiral out of control in the final act, leading to one of the most incredible critiques of issues around race. A thriller with a social message, that's a rare and refreshing piece of entertainment. Jordan Peele uses horror, as well as comedy, to create a socially relevant thriller about racism in modern America. You don't want to miss this one. Now we have Zodiac, 2007. This is a well-researched, haunting movie by James Vanderbilt. It tells the story of three individuals whose lives are forever changed by the Zodiac Killer. The story takes place over decades, and we see how this case affects Detective Dave Toschi, Mark Ruffalo, cartoonist Robert Graysmith, Jake Gyllenhaal, and reporter Paul Avery, Robert Downey Jr. While it does feature some lighthearted moments, Zodiac is majorly a gripping true crime thriller. The script is based on Robert Graysmith's book about the Zodiac, as well as the actual case files, making Zodiac one of the most accurate film adaptations ever made. With great performances and a real-life mystery, this movie is less interested in who the killer was and more interested in how his murder spree affected those who investigated it. As far as true crime thrillers go, there are so few other films that can compete with David Fincher's hypnotizing Zodiac. And then there is Vertigo, 1958. This movie was not a huge hit at first, but Vertigo has stood the test of time. It stars James Stewart as a former detective who's been hired to follow Madeline, Kim Novak, who may or may not be possessed by a dead woman. While our main protagonist does have a mystery to solve early on, things slowly change during the course of the film. The less you know going in, the better, so we won't spoil more. Over the years, the film has gotten critical acclaim, to the point where many now consider it to be one of the greatest films of all time. That is a high honor, but if nothing else, Vertigo definitely has a place as one of the best thrillers ever, and also one of Hitchcock's very best. As iconic as it is mesmerizing, Vertigo stands as a classic thriller that has to make it to your to-watch list. Up next, Seven, 1995. Another David Fincher creation on our list, but he never went as dark, hard, and straightforward as he did with Seven. The film is about two very different detectives, Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, trying to find a killer in an anonymous city that seems to be on the verge of falling apart. The killer is making his murders based on the 7 deadly sins, and the more he succeeds, the more stressed and tired our detectives become. Seven was a major hit for Fincher, with the film becoming a part of pop culture almost immediately. It is as gut-wrenching as it is exciting. Not too many crime thrillers go as dark as Seven, and that's what makes it so haunting to watch. This is a dark, brutal, and engaging piece of crime fiction, a thriller that will keep you up at night. Now at number 5, No Country for Old Men. Based on the Cormac McCarthy novel of the same name, No Country for Old Men tells the story of Llewellyn Moss, Josh Brolin, who comes across a drug deal gone bad. Deciding to take the money at the scene, he's then chased by a mysterious assassin, Javier Bardem. As a sheriff, Tommy Lee Jones tries to make sense of the situation. The film ended up being one of the best thrillers ever, as well as one of the most acclaimed movies of the 2010s, winning the Oscar for Best Picture in 2008. It stands as one of the Coen brothers' best films, and its villain, Anton Chigurh, made his stamp on pop culture the moment people saw his haircut. No Country for Old Men has almost everything you could want from a neo-Western crime thriller. Next, Mulholland Drive, 2001. A suspenseful movie doesn't need a coherent plot to keep you engaged or frightened. In the hands of David Lynch, what first appears to be a straightforward mystery becomes a nightmare commentary about Hollywood and who knows what else. Very few people can accurately describe Mulholland Drive, often considered to be Lynch's biggest achievement and one of the greatest thrillers of all time. Starring Naomi Watts, Laura Elena Herring, and Justin Theroux, the film draws you into a bizarre world that seems like a twisted mirror of the one we're already living in. As the story moves and changes, we get sucked into a world where there is no easy escape. The plot might go off the deep end, and that's all part of the insane and intense experience that it is watching David Lynch's one-of-a-kind Mulholland Drive. And at number 3, The Silence of the Lambs, 1991. Few movie monsters are as famous as Dr. Hannibal Lecter, and few films of this type managed to get the awards and critical acclaim that The Silence of the Lambs received. Director Jonathan Demme created one of the top thrillers of the time by combining horror and crime, made special by Jodie Foster's performance as FBI trainee Clarice Starling. But it's Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal that elevates this film beyond just being a great thriller. With his award-winning performance, Hopkins created a villain that we've never seen in contemporary cinema. He was so good at it that he was brought back 10 years later for the sequel, Hannibal, along with the prequel, Red Dragon, the following year. The Silence of the Lambs continues to haunt audiences to this very day with stellar performances, suspenseful moments, and incredible direction. Next is Jaws. What could be simpler than 3 men on a boat out to defeat a killer shark? Adapted from a best-selling novel, Jaws was one of Steven Spielberg's earliest films, and it came with many production problems behind the scenes. The shocking part? No one could have predicted how massive of a hit it would be for everyone involved. On the surface, Jaws is just a monster movie with adventure elements, but dig deeper and you'll see a story about government negligence and a man who wants to keep his town and family safe. By keeping the shark hidden and emphasizing the soundtrack, Spielberg created a masterpiece of suspense, horror, and thrills, and it's going to make you think twice about going for a swim. Few films can claim to be blockbusters and critically acclaimed, but Jaws has that distinction, scaring audiences since 1975. Now for number 1 on our video. Psycho is one of the top thrillers of all time. It has broken the most barriers and had the most impact on both cinema and pop culture at large. One of the director Alfred Hitchcock's biggest hits, the film stars Janet Leigh as a woman on the run who decides to stay at the Bates Motel for the night. What happens next is a series of events that lead to a truly horrifying revelation. While the film is an engaging thriller on its own, its impact cannot be understated. Decades after its initial release, Psycho continues to terrify and shock audiences the world over, with a legendary performance by Anthony Perkins and an iconic musical score by Bernard Herrmann. It may have gotten some sequels, a remake, and a television spin-off show, but none of them could overshadow Hitchcock's classic, and it will continue to be an influence on the American cinematic landscape forever. That's a wrap for the 10 best suspense movies of all time. Which of these are on your to-watch list? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.